Well, we'll just try this and see if it's any good at all. So here I am. There's a really crazy, massive ship that's, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an oil thing, but anyway, it's really close and it's turning around. Don't know what it's doing there. Anyway, I'm on the waterfront here, and I have a lot of different spots, but this is one of my spots to come. And every morning, do Tai Chi and sit and meditate. So, the last video, I ended with kind of like Tai Chi, meditation, and yoga are not whatever. Anyway, I got a little bit of commentary on that because people have their practices and they do feel that these practices are actually, helpful. Um, oh, just a sec, something's going on with this thing. Ding, 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 ding. What is going on? There we go. Anyway, I don't really know how to do this, but I just kind of want to clarify that there is no really such thing as, in my way of looking at things, there just isn't such thing as you can call a spiritual practice, like at least one that you can sign up to and give it a name and give it a form. This is a kind of a big question which I'd love to get into, but in a nutshell, form is not essence. And a person who's sitting, myself, is sitting here, I can be daydreaming, and I can actually be forming a kind of diluted worldview in my daydream. So the act of sitting is not proof of a so-called spiritual practice. Now, I even have a problem with that terminology because, what are we actually trying to do? Personally, I would, if we looked at those two forces that I've talked about before, I've talked about it in terms of forms of perception, but it's one conversation. There's one topic that I'll keep going over and over again, but just with different language. Like, we have to stop seeing the world in terms of things and forms and ideas and stuff. We have to see it in terms of forces. There are two forces, and so really fundamental forces, and I've described that in terms of perception. One is going in the direction of immediacy, and one is going in the direction of identification. Well, another way to go into that is the difference between form and essence. And form is an inevitability. In order to have an action, we have to have a form, right? Whatever it is. I take a fist. Well, that's an action, and that's a form, and that form has certain possibilities. So I sit in a meditating position, and that form can be very, very helpful to what? Well, if the aim is to actually, enter into a state of immediacy, then sitting quietly will reduce the number of influences, at least that the body's generating, and maybe allow something, interesting to happen. But the form itself is not that experience of immediacy. And so it sounded maybe to some people like I was dissing, forms. But in a sense, I'm not dissing forms, I'm dissing the idea that there is a subscription that can be called a so-called spiritual practice. Again, I hate that word because what I want is a meaningful practice. That means between spirit and action. If I had just action, I would call it an actual practice. Well, the actual part is that I'm actually doing it. The spiritual part is that I'm letting go of everything that I'm doing. Anyway, so the meaningful part is when these two things come together, right? According to this concept of meaning that I've been trying to get across as an idea. So form is not essence, and that's my point. Is that it really can't be the case that I can subscribe to a practice and call it something, Tai Chi, yoga, this, that, and believe that this is somehow a search for truth all by itself. The form is not a search for truth. The form is just that, it's a form. And what else could be a form? How about living? The act of actually, in that case, we're more involved in the realm of action. And so, what about bringing some presence into that realm of action? And that is a form, which I would call a meaningful practice, as opposed to, we can be doing all twist our bodies here and there in other ways, but still be essentially not seeking the truth and not developing a meaningful or truthful worldview. And so that's really what I'm promoting is what's missing is truth. You know, it's how do we get to truth? Oh, to see the world in terms of forces. The forces, you can call them good and evil, you can call it unity and division. These are really fundamental forces that operate in life, and starting to see life in terms of the fundamental forces, that which drives us apart, that which unites us. These are the kinds of uh, ways of looking at the world that I think are inevitably more in the direction of an accurate worldview, but also one which describes truth seeking.